Hey guys, and welcome back to the Red Shadows Blu-ray collection, and this is part 2. And you know, if you watched the first part, that we are starting now in the F's, so let's get right to it. First movie, Family Guy. It's a trap. This is actually not necessarily a movie, but these were a series. Family Guy did a series of Star Wars parodies. Basically, each movie was covered by Family Guy with all the crazy non sequitur humor that they are famous for. I have not seen the Blu-ray version of this, but I have seen all 3 of the Family Guy Star Wars movies, or movie parodies, and I just love all things Family Guy, so it was well worth getting it. I have the first 2, but they're on DVD. Alright, and the next thing we've got is another what I consider to be an iconic series, even though it's not as old as some other movies, but The Fast and the Furious, the original movie. I love all the Fast and Furious movies, and the first one, of course, is the one that started it all. Probably the best of the entire series, because it changed a lot after the 3rd or 4th movie. But this was the beginning of it all. Vin Diesel and, of course, the late Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, Michelle Rodriguez, like the whole entire crew. And then, of course, in the second movie, Too Fast, Too Furious, we had Tyrese join us, and Eva Mendes got into the movies, at least with this one. I don't remember if she was in more, but it's been a while since I watched these. But I did watch all these after I got them on Blu-ray a couple years ago. Like, sat down and watched them all. I've seen all the movies except for the 6th one at this point. Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, kind of the oddball of the movie series, because it really didn't have anybody from the other movies in it, as far as stars were concerned. But it did star Lucas Black, who I like to point out was the kid from Sling Blade. And he's still a very heavy Texas-style drawl in this. I assume it was Texas. I don't want to offend any Texas people who might watch it if it's not necessarily a Texas drawl. And here's Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious, you know, they were kind of struggling, I guess, with names and whatnot by the time they got to this. Fast and Furious on that one. Good movie. That was the beginning, I think, of when it started to change into more like heist movies as opposed to tuner car racers and whatnot. Excuse me. And then we had Fast 5. It wasn't a bad a title for this. It wasn't a bad movie. I enjoyed it. Like I said, this is the last one in the series that I've seen, even though I have the nice steelbook copy of Fast and Furious 6. At this point, it was just like, Fast and Furious, put a number after it. It was lacking a little bit. I am looking forward to watching this one, and of course watching the 7th one and seeing how they cope with, you know, the passing of Paul Walker. And hopefully, maybe the 7th one will just wrap up the entire series. There was talk at one point of them going 10 movies, but that was before Paul Walker's unfortunate death. So we'll see how they go about it. Now here's a movie called Faster, starring The Rock. This is one of my favorite Rock movies, because in this movie he was a pretty badass dude and kind of a bad guy. It wasn't like some of these other movies that he's done where, you know, he's just trying to be the good guy face of everything. I really enjoyed that movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it and you like The Rock. You'll be impressed. Up next we have Fearless, starring Jet Li. I have not seen this movie yet. I'm a horrible person. I love Jet Li. I love the movies that he puts out. I have not watched this, even though I owned, I think, the DVD. Perhaps I still have the DVD, but I think I owned it at one point. Now I have the Blu-ray. Love Jet Li stuff. And here's a good, iconic movie, super popular movie for me anyway. It's a 90s movie that it reminds me of those years in the 90s when I was living out on my own and I could go to the movies whenever I wanted to, and I would get great stuff like this. A Luc Besson movie, directed by Luc Besson. I love his stuff. And, I mean, it's The Fifth Element. Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Chris Tucker. It's just amazing. I need to sit down and watch it again sometime. Gary Oldman, amazing in it. Alright, up next we have Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within. This was the Final Fantasy movie that I'm not sure that anybody really asked for. because as big as Final Fantasy was at the time that this came out, and its CG was amazing for that time, nobody was expecting him to go for a straight-up sci-fi movie. It wasn't fantasy style. It wasn't even Final Fantasy style. It was straight-up sci-fi. But it's not a bad movie or anything. It just doesn't really necessarily need the words Final Fantasy in it. But this next movie absolutely does. This is the way Final Fantasy movies should be done. This is Final Fantasy VII Advent Children Complete. Now, I haven't watched this entire package of everything that's on this, but the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children movie I have watched, and I absolutely love it. Final Fantasy VII is my favorite my favorite video game, and even though I was wanting a actual continuation in game form, this is a true sequel to the game, and it's phenomenal. And the CG in this movie is amazing. The cover work and some of the scenes on the back of this aren't going to do it justice. You have to watch it. Even if you just love CG stuff, check it out because it'll blow you away. Alright, up next is Firefly, the complete series on Blu-ray. Something that I was hoping I was going to get to watch with a buddy of mine, but things have not worked out, and he's watching it on his own now. I have not got to watch the Blu-ray version of this series, but the TV show itself is amazing. It's, if you love sci-fi stuff, geeky stuff at all, if you like someone like Nathan Fillion like I do, you got to check it out. Up next here we have Firewall, a Harrison Ford movie that I have watched one time before. This is an unopened Blu-ray, but I rented it or something like that, and actually it was pretty interesting. I liked it. No complaints. Then up next we have Four Christmases, one of the few Christmas movies that I own, but it's one of the funniest Christmas movies I think I've ever seen, and it's just a funny movie in general. Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon star in it, and it's hilarious. And I think it's something you could watch even when it wasn't Christmas time. And here's an iconic movie if there ever was one, Friday. This is one of my very first Blu-ray movies I ever owned. I don't know why I remember like that first 5 or 10 movies I ever buy for DVD and Blu-ray and all that, but this is one of the first ones that I got. This is a movie that I just loved back in the 90s. Couldn't get enough of this. The characters in it were so great. Chris Tucker and Ice Cube. I don't know. It was just great. I can't express enough just how hilarious that movie is. Now here's a movie that I haven't watched, but it's another Disney movie. This is Frozen. And I bought this for my daughter, not this Christmas that just went by, but the year before, because I knew she'd seen the movie and she liked it, but she's never watched it, so I've never watched it. And maybe that's a good thing, because I finally had all those songs out of my head. And as soon as I watch it, I know they're going to get stuck in there again. And Full Metal Jacket, this is my last F movie. And this is an amazing Vietnam War movie with a great cast. It's directed by Stanley Kubrick. It does, in my opinion, feel like at the end of the movie it just kind of ends without really wrapping things up. But everything that happens from start to finish is pretty amazing, and a gritty war movie. Great performances. I'm looking at the back here. Matthew Modine, Adam Baldwin, Vincent D'Onofrio, Lee Ermey. Great cast of actors in it. Just a really, really good movie. It makes me kind of want to watch some of the other Vietnam War movies that they came out with back in like the 80s and stuff. Alright, now we get into the G's, and we start off with G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. Now I kind of have a meh relationship with this movie. I've owned it, and then I've gotten rid of it, and then I bought the Blu-ray, I owned the DVD previously. I was such a big fan of G.I. Joe when I was a kid. I still love the old cartoons, the old toys. This new remake of them, I was kind of half and half on, I guess you would say. But I still own this. I will probably buy the sequel, and I will probably check out any others that they come out with. But they're definitely not my favorite. But here's a great old movie, or actually two great movies. Ghostbusters 1 and 2 on Blu-ray. This was in one of my most recent pickups videos. I'm super looking forward to watching these again because it's been forever, watching them on Blu-ray and checking out some of the new special features that are included on here. I do have the DVD somewhere back here on these racks behind me that had 1 and 2, but it's missing some of those special features. Now, I made a comment in the last video about the movie Cloverfield and how much I liked it and how much I was like, this is how you do the monster movie and the monster invades a big city. And I'm not really interested in that newer Godzilla movie that came out. It just doesn't really do it for me. It's actually, probably, at least the way I take it, it looks more like the original Godzilla TV show, which I just always thought was really incredibly cheesy and hokey, of somebody in a crappy looking suit stomping on toy cities. This movie, this Godzilla that came out in like 1998 with Matthew Broderick and Jean Reno, this is my shit right here. I really love this movie. And I said in the last video too, I will not apologize for some of my tastes in movies. I love this movie, and that's just the way that it is. Okay, now we're going to get into all of my James Bond movies, because as I said before, I'm trying to keep a series of movies together. So alphabetically, it starts with GoldenEye. I'm not a fan of any of the Bond actors other than Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig, so I don't own any of the movies from before this. This is where it starts for me, GoldenEye, and of course the old 007 N64 game that was based on that movie. And then you have Tomorrow Never Dies, which this may have been the one that was like a Target exclusive. It took me some time to track down the Pierce Brosnan ones because 3 of them were widely available, and 1 of them was only available, I believe, through Target, and I think that was this one. And then we have The World Is Not Enough. I love all of these movies. GoldenEye, I don't know, I'm guessing, I believe GoldenEye is my favorite of the ones that Pierce did. And here's Die Another Day with Halle Berry in it. And then I have Casino Royale, which was really, really good. And I think I'm missing Quantum of Solace. And then I have Skyfall, which I haven't watched yet. But I've watched Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale and loved both of those. I don't know why I haven't watched this one yet. I'm kind of, I guess, being a little bit of a stickler. I want to track down Quantum of Solace before I even feel like I can move along. Okay, up next is Gone Baby Gone, and this is a movie with Casey Affleck in it, who's kind of a strange actor that I really enjoy. I own at least one more movie that he's done that I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm trying to track down another one. But I really like him. He's Ben Affleck's brother. He's a little less, I don't know, I would say he's just not quite as talented, or at least well-known. He's kind of unassuming, so some of the roles that he does are like that. But this was a really, really good movie all in general. You got Morgan Freeman in it. You've got Ed Harris is in it, and Michelle Monaghan. And it's just a really interesting tale. Here's one of a handful of holy grails that are in my collection. This, well, a lot like most of these, were not movie sets that I knew of at the time that I got them. I just kind of stumbled across them, and then I was like, I have to get this. This one I got because when my dad was living with me for a short period of time in 2011, he would be here at my house while I was at work, and he would be bored, and so he'd start going through my movies, watching movies. And one day, for some strange reason, he decided to watch The Goonies. And it was just my standard DVD copy. In fact, I still have the case for it with the disc inside it, I'm pretty sure. But when he was trying to pull it out of there, he pulled on it too hard and bent it, and it cracked. And he was going to replace it, but he never did. But that's not a big deal, because if he had, I might not have went for this. This is the 25th Anniversary Collector's Edition Goonies box set. This has 25th Anniversary exclusive board game, the Goonies 1985 Souvenir Magazine reproduction, 64 pages, Where Are They Now Empire Magazine article reprint, of course the movie on Blu-ray, and 10 awesome storyboard cards. The Goonies is a classic movie from my childhood that I really, really love, and this box set is amazing, and I don't think I paid more than like 25 bucks for this. It would have cost me between like $5 and $10 to get the DVD. This was well worth it. And I think it's still pretty widely available out there for about that same price. Okay, up next we have Gravity, a movie that I've really been wanting to check out, but haven't had a chance to just yet. The guy who directed this, wow, I just lost his name on here. I saw it for a second. Alfonso, well, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But I know he's done some other movie or something that I either really wanted to see or that I have seen that would look really good. But I can't think of it right now. So let's move on to The Green Hornet. This is not a bad movie. Seth Rogen is in it, and he's pretty funny. And Christoph Waltz is the bad guy in it. Maybe not necessarily the best platform for him was this movie, but this wasn't too bad of a flick. But, you know, could have been better. But here we have a really good Liam Neeson movie, The Grey, the movie where he fights against wolves. This is just really action-packed. Another one in a string of great Liam Neeson movies. Guy's been on a tear here the last at least about a decade. And to wrap up the G movies, this is the last G movie. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. I've talked about this one recently, but it's really amazing. If you're into the Marvel stuff that's out right now, this is definitely something to check out. Now let's hop right on into the H movies, and the first one I have here is Hangover Part 2. I have the first Hangover movie. It's on DVD. I'd like to get that on Blu-ray at some point, and I want to pick up the third movie because I did enjoy the first two, even though the quality level on them was going down. All right, and up next we have Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters. I don't want to get it mixed up in the vampire flicks. This is Witch Hunters. This is a movie that, I don't know, this was kind of a last-minute splurge kind of thing. I just decided one day to pick this up. I have tried to watch it, and for some reason, my Blu-ray player does not like this disc. I can put it in my PS3 and it plays fine, but then I lose out on my surround sound. So I guess I've just been waiting for one day that I'm just going to magically pop it in and it's going to work. And here's a movie called Haywire. This is actually something I've picked up recently. It hasn't been in a pickups video, so hey, here it is. Gina Carano, a lady who's been in the UFC, and she was on the redo of American Gladiators from several years back, or, you know, a handful of years. She's pretty badass. I really like this movie. Channing Tatum is in it. Ewan McGregor, Bill Paxton, Michael Fassbender, Michael Douglas, Antonio Banderas. I mean, it's just loaded with a bunch of people, but it's really a powerhouse vehicle for her. She's awesome. And speaking of her, the next movie is called Her. Okay. Anyway, this movie stars Joaquin Phoenix and the voice of Scarlett Johansson, and I have not watched it, but it sure sounded interesting and quirky, and that's why I picked it up, and I'm hoping to check it out pretty soon, like everything else I have. And next movie we have up is Hero. Now this is actually a movie I enjoyed even more than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's Jet Li. It's amazing cinematography. Donnie Yen is in it. Yeah, it's just an amazing movie. It's just something you have to see to believe. It has all that crazy action where they fly through the air and have their epic fights and just all kinds of stuff. And I have not watched the Blu-ray version of it yet. That's a shame because I imagine it's just going to blow me away. And it's also pretty cool that it's Quentin Tarantino Presents, even though I think it had a pretty wide release over here in the States. I mean, I could be wrong. Okay, up next we have a TV show, Heroes. Heroes Season 1. And Season 2. Season 3. And Season 4, which is where the series ended originally. But there is a Heroes Reborn or something like that that's coming to TV soon. It's kind of a kickstart of a continuation of the story, and I think the intent is that maybe it'll return to the air, or if nothing else, it'll just tell some more stories about heroes. I do hope it contains a lot of the original characters and that it doesn't just kind of wipe the slate clean and start over with brand new people. But I've only seen the first 2 seasons of that show. I have not seen seasons 3 and 4 yet. I picked those up a year or two ago because they were like $10 a piece for the Blu-ray seasons. I thought, yeah, that's pretty damn worth it right there. Alright, up next we have The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And this is the extended edition Blu-ray. Because when Peter Jackson puts out a movie, I don't buy the regular versions. I stick around and wait for extended versions because he does that with pretty much every one of these big epic flicks that he does. And the same goes for this. This is the Desolation of Smaug. I believe it's supposed to be pronounced Smaug and not Smog or Smog. But either way, I haven't watched either of these yet, and I feel bad for that too because I'm a massive fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But I may just wait until all three of them are out on extended Blu-rays and check them out in like some massive super marathon. Okay, up next we have something that may make some people chuckle, but this is Hobo with a Shotgun, starring Rutger Hauer. This is just kind of like one of those grindhouse-style movies that were popular decades ago, but were kind of repopularized by Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino a couple years ago with their grindhouse movies, which I have, but I think I only have them on DVD. But Hobo with a Shotgun, I can't remember if this was one of the... During those grindhouse movies, when they had those two movies out in theaters, they had their own mock commercials and trailers for other movies. I don't remember if Hobo with a Shotgun was one of those trailers that they developed into a full movie, or if it's just safe to say that this is kind of inspired by that. But this movie is so crazy and so bizarre, but it's hilarious, and I really enjoyed it. And it's actually been quite a while since I've watched it, so this could be warranting a rewatch sometime soon. Now we go from something crazy and gory and over the top, and we go to a kids movie, Hotel Transylvania. But I have to tell you, this is a movie that's voiced by Adam Sandler, Selena Gomez, Andy Samberg, Kevin James, Steve Buscemi, David Spade, CeeLo Green. I thought this movie was amazing. This is like one of my favorite CG animated movies that's come out in the last 15 years. It's just really, really good and funny, and I liked it. Okay, up next we have House of Flying Daggers, and this also goes into the category of the Blood Omen, Last Vampire, and you know, even kind of Hero and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But this is not a super well-known. It's from the director of Hero and the star of Hero and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's not Jet Li, but it's other people from the movie. But anyway, I haven't watched it yet, but I was just like, it's this kind of martial arts style movie. It's probably going to look amazing on high definition on the Blu-ray, and I'm just going to have to get it because it was cheap, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Alright, go back to some kids' CG movies here. We got How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2. I have not seen the second one, but the first one was amazing. This is something I got my daughter for Christmas just a couple weeks ago, and I'm a little sad we haven't watched it yet, but I expect good things from it. And up next we have The Hunger Games. Awesome series of books. Looking forward to checking out all the movies. I've seen the first movie. It does not live up to the first book, but I've heard great things about the second movie, which is Catching Fire, but I have not watched this one yet. And Mockingjay Part 1 will be out on Blu-ray, I think, in March, and Part 2 will probably be out this summer in theaters or whatever to wrap it up. But I'm looking forward to seeing the entire thing because, like I said, I enjoyed the books quite a bit. So now we are going to start in to the eyes. And I have another one of my holy grails and another one of those things I didn't imagine I would ever even... Well, I can't even imagine that this exists. I can't even imagine why this exists. But this is pretty awesome. This is I Am Legend. And this is the Ultimate Collector's Edition Blu-ray set. Big, fat, wide, long box for the Will Smith movie I Am Legend, which was something that I really, really enjoyed. I think it's kind of hot and cold with most people, but I thought it was a really interesting movie. This includes a 3-disc Ultimate Collector's Edition, an exclusive 44-page concept sketchbook, 6 art cards showing international cities devastated by the plague virus, and a collectible lenticular theatrical release plus new movie commentary, deleted scenes, animated comics, yada yada yada. I have not opened this. I owned, and I think I may still own, like 2 other versions of this, but I believe that they're on DVD. So if I still do have those in my collection, I'll cover those whenever I do my DVDs. But this is pretty awesome, and this was super cheap at the time that I got it, so I didn't mind splurging for something. Even though, like I said, I Am Legend is not necessarily the kind of movie I would have expected to get that treatment. Now we have another movie that falls in line with Caligula. It's one of those kind of controversial movies, and so I was really excited to kind of find this and get it in my collection. But this is I Spit on Your Grave, and this is the original version from 1978. This is a 78 director's cut, aka Day of the Woman. And I don't know, I probably need to watch this again and talk about it after I've watched it, but for the time this was pretty brutal and it was pretty graphic for what was acceptable in the late 70s. Nowadays it's kind of tame, but it was pretty controversial at the time. I don't know a better word to use for it than that. Alright, up next we have Iceman. This was something I'm pretty sure I covered in a recent pickups video. Donnie Yen movie. Interesting concept. Warriors from 400 years ago get frozen and then rethought in modern times, and I assume crazy shenanigans ensue. And up next we have Immortals. This to me was not a horrible movie. It wasn't the most amazing thing. It's not going to live up to, Gladiator or something like that. But it was still pretty decent, and it starred Henry Cavill. That dude right there, he's the new Superman from Man of Steel in the upcoming movie. And he's, from what I remember, he was pretty good in it. Now here's a interesting movie that I really enjoyed. And this is In Time with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. I hope I'm saying her name right. Olivia Wilde was in this. What was really cool about it was the concept that it was in the future, and currency was time, and your time was connected to how long you were alive. So let's say they had this readout on their arm, and it would say that they had like 3 days left to live, but they'd go to work and suddenly they would get 2 more days on top of that. But then to buy stuff, they would have to spend that time, and they were always constantly in worry that they would run out of time and their life would be over. I don't know, it was just a really interesting movie. I don't want to say too much more about it, but I think it's worth a watch. And here's one of the 90s iconic sci-fi, big, dumb, summer movie blockbusters that I've talked about before. Another Will Smith movie, Independence Day. Now, as a major X-Files fan, I almost feel a little dirty for owning this movie, but then again, not really, because I love this movie. It was great, but there was some sort of beef between the makers of Independence Day and Chris Carter and the people involved with the X-Files. I don't know if maybe somebody took a dig at X-Files, or maybe it was just because they were summer 96 competition. I don't even remember. But anyway, well, no, they wouldn't have been. But I'll talk about that at another time if I haven't already. Anyway, Independence Day. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. And it has Brent Spiner in it from Star Trek Next Generation. Okay, up next we have Iron Man 2 on Blu-ray. Glad to have this on Blu-ray. I was almost thinking maybe I had picked up the first one, but I guess not. And I have not even bought or watched Iron Man 3 yet. But I plan on getting 1 and 2 on Blu-ray at some point. The Iron Man movies are pretty awesome, and the Iron Man character in general and the Avengers thing is pretty awesome. Now this movie here reminds me a little bit of what I talked about with Back to the Future in the last video, and when this trilogy I should say, and that it's an amazing transfer of a somewhat older movie onto Blu-ray. This is the Jurassic Park Ultimate Trilogy, and it really is ultimate. It was awesome the transfer that they did of these movies on the Blu-ray. They look amazing in high definition. I love all three of these movies so much, and I'm looking forward to Jurassic World. I don't think it'll measure up to these, but hopefully it'll come close. I just love it. This is the best treatment that you could imagine for the Jurassic Park trilogy. There's a movie that I love, Kick-Ass. Another one of these kind of interesting takes on superheroes and whatnot. But this is a great movie, great cast. Nicolas Cage is in it. Chloe Grace Moretz. Aaron Johnson is the title character, Kick-Ass. And then there's the sequel, Kick-Ass 2, which I have not got to watch yet. I feel really, really shitty for that because I loved the first one. This one's got most of the same people back. It's got Jim Carrey in it. Very interesting movie. Want to check it out as soon as possible. Up next we have Killer Joe. I talked about this recently in a pickups video, but this is just a very interesting turn for Matthew McConaughey. Very interesting character and role. I can't really recommend people checking that out if they like something kind of dark and sinister. And now here's a movie that I have never watched. I paid $5 for this. This movie is from 1956. This is a Blu-ray, and it's probably black and white, but it's a Stanley Kubrick movie. It's one of his first movies, in fact. It's The Killing. This is sort of a mobster-style movie, and I bought this because, like I said, it was $5 and it was a Blu-ray, and I wanted Blu-rays. And then once I looked into it a little bit, I was like, you know, this may be very, very interesting when I watch it. Of course, it may also completely turn me off just because it's an old-style movie. But, it's in the collection, so that's that. Up next, we have a movie called Killzone. This is a Donnie Yen movie, and this is a part of a very important series that I really love, which is the Dragon Dynasty series of movies. I have quite a few of the DVDs. This is my first and only Blu-ray from that series. I don't know if the Dragon Dynasty series still even exists, like if they still put them out. But I want to piece the entire series together one of these days on both DVD and Blu-ray. I have not got to watch that one yet. Here's another Peter Jackson movie that I waited to pick up the extended version of. This is King Kong. I think he did an amazing job with King Kong. I really, really love this. Jack Black is in this, Naomi Watts, Adrian Brody. I think this was the movie that really opened my eyes to Adrian Brody. I love him. I think he should be one of the main characters from the Dark Tower series, Stephen King books. I can't remember the name of the character now because it's been a while since I've read it, but there's a character in that series who's like a heroin addict, and I just see Adrian Brody every time I read anything about that character in that series of books. And the King Kong movie, like I said, is just amazing. Now here's a somewhat bitter-sweet movie thing that I own, not because of the movie, but because of a little bit of the story behind it. This is Night and Day. It's a Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz movie. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of people give Tom Cruise shit these days. Whatever. As long as the movies he's in are good, I don't care anything about his personal life or how old he is or how short he is. But I thought this was a decent movie. But along with the Goonies movie I mentioned earlier that my dad broke while he was here in 2011, yeah, he kind of messed up this case for my Night and Day. He did not know how to open it, and he ended up tearing that plastic piece that holds this part in. Inside, the movies are still in there. Everything is legit as far as that goes. But somehow or another, he managed to wreck the rest of the case. So one of these days, I got to get a new Blu-ray case to put that movie in. And we're coming down to the last three movies. We're in the K's. I guess you probably figured out by now. I've kind of stopped sounding off when we went to a new letter. But these are the last three movies before I'm going to end this video. This is Knowing. This is another Nicolas Cage movie. I can't say if this is one of those Nicolas Cage bad movies because I haven't watched the movie yet. But I always wanted to check it out. I just thought that it looked really interesting and had a neat story to it. So there's that. And the last two movies, Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu Panda 2. Love the Kung Fu Panda movies. Probably amongst my favorite DreamWorks movies. And I'm eagerly awaiting, along with my daughter, Kung Fu Panda 3. But, yeah, that ends this part 2 of my Blu-ray collection. Thanks for watching again. Hope you enjoyed. And I can't wait to finish doing the rest of these collection videos. But it probably won't be right away because my battery's getting ready to die. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.